Aloha. On behalf of the King Kamehameha V Judiciary History Center, the Hawaii State Bar Association Civic Education Committee, and the Dolores Furtado Martin Foundation, aloha noa and welcome to Ola Nā Mele Lāhui. My name is Troy Andrade. I'm a law professor and co-chair of the Civic Education Committee. At this time, it is now my pleasure to introduce Chief Justice Mark Recktenwald.
Good evening and aloha. On behalf of the Hawaii State Judiciary, welcome to Ulumaheihei. Thank you for joining us for the 125th year observance of the overthrow of the Kingdom of Hawai'i. Before I begin, I'd like to thank the King Kamehameha V Judiciary History Center. The staff worked incredibly hard to set up the room and prepare for today, as well as the Hawaii State Bar Association Civic Education Committee and the Dolores Furtado Martin Foundation for their generous funding of our event. This event could not have taken place without their support, and we're so grateful to them. We also extend our mahalo to this evening's hula halau and choirs. And finally, mahalo to Oiwi TV and our viewers. To all of you, we appreciate your support and participation. Tonight, the judiciary acknowledges the importance of an informed and engaged citizenry, along with the right of expression. In the late 18th century, Maka'ainana, living in Hawaii's Puna district, made a lasting impact on a young chief, Kamehameha. After a violent mishap with fishermen from the district, Kamehameha decreed the law of the splintered paddle. The law guaranteed safety to people, both great and humble. This wasn't the first time that the Maka'ainana, the general populace, influenced ali'i, nor was it the last. Hawaii has a legal history rich in civic engagement and political expression, a history profoundly influenced by its citizenry. This evening, we look at political expression of Hawaiians at the time of the overthrow of their government. During this period, many Hawaiians took to the press to stay informed and to express themselves. The hula kahiko tonight are set to mele from the Buke Mele Lāhui, a rich collection of Hawaiian political expression. The mele during the second half of our program are selected from the Queen's Songbook. Once again, thank you for joining us this evening. Aloha.
Mahalo. In 1810, following years of military campaigns and political negotiations, Kamehameha I united all of the Hawaiian Islands, establishing the Kingdom of Hawai'i. In line with Ke Kana Wai Ma Malahoi, the law of the splintered paddle, the edict Kamehameha decreed as a young chief in the late 18th century, the sovereign took tremendous efforts to protect his land, people, and culture from a growing foreign presence. He understood the increasing impact outsiders were having on his nation. Creating relationships with foreign agents was one of the earliest tactics Kamehameha employed to strengthen the kingdom's government and safeguard his people. His successors expanded this strategy. They too understood the increasing effect outsiders were having on their island nation and resolved both to mitigate and utilize foreign influence. From its inception as a nation, Hawaii's ruling ali'i employed diplomacy with governments and organizations abroad to protect the kingdom's citizenry. With more than 20 international treaties and over 100 diplomatic missions or consulars, Hawaii was a globally recognized monarchical nation state by 1891 when Kalakaua passed away on his trip to San Francisco. Liliuokalani, Kalakaua's sister, who was named as his heir in the 1887 Constitution, assumed the throne hours after the ship carrying his body docked in Honolulu Harbor. In 1892, the legislature defeated a bill that called for a constitutional convention, despite the support of 2/3 of the population for such a move. Rumors swirled of Lili'u promulgating a new constitution and of an attempt to annex Hawaii to the United States. In 1893, almost a century-old diplomatic effort came to an end with the United States' collusion in the overthrow of the Hawaiian Kingdom. On January 14th, 1893, to the sound of the Royal Hawaiian Band, which we'll hear later this evening, Queen Liliuokalani crossed the street from Iolani Palace to this building. Immediately below us, in what was then the Legislative Hall, Liliuokalani praised legislators for their work and officially closed the legislative session. She made her way back to her palace and, responding to the petition of her people, attempted to promulgate a new constitution. This new constitution would restore monarchical power wrested by the 1887 Constitution, which heavily favored foreign interests over those of the Hawaiian population. It also restricted voting rights to male subjects of the kingdom in distinction from temporary residents. The Queen's cabinet refused to countersign such a change to the fundamental governing document. The act of proposing a new constitution provided a small group of citizens and foreigners, primarily attorneys, calling themselves the Committee of Public Safety, with an opportunity to seize control of the kingdom. Over the course of the next few days, meetings were held in this building to discuss plans for the overthrow and to negotiate resolution of the issue. At 5 p.m. on January 16, 1893, without consent from the kingdom government and in a move of intimidation planned well in advance, American troops from the USS Boston, armed with 60 to 80 rounds of ammunition, made landfall at Sea Brewer's Landing. The American troops marched up Fort Street to Merchant Street, halting on King Street between the palace and this building. With a Gatling gun of 14,000 rounds of ammunition and a revolving cannon with 174 shells, the troops marched past the palace and saluted as the Queen overlooked. The Queen's Chamberlain, James Robertson, noted, quote, "Standing on the front veranda of the palace building at the time the United States troops marched past, the scene greatly depressed me, and the immediate impression conveyed to my mind was that they had been landed to take possession of these islands." The soldiers set up their quarters for the night right across the street at the Aryan Hall, where the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs is now located. The next day, January 17th, 1893, 125 years ago today, Sanford B. Dole, the Hawaii Supreme Court Associate Justice who resigned his position that morning, and his compatriots proceeded from Attorney W.O. Smith's law office on the corner of Fort and Merchant Street to Aliʻiolani to proclaim their new government. Having received the promise of United States recognition from the American emissary, the self-proclaimed government demanded the possession of Aliʻiolani, the seat of the kingdom's government. At approximately 2:40 p.m., with no audience in initial attendance, Henry Cooper, an American denizen lawyer who eventually became a judge and attorney general, read a proclamation declaring the end of the kingdom and the creation of the new provisional government. The Queen's forces were ready to quash what they considered to be an internal matter. But because of America's involvement and its protection of the rebel provisional government, the Queen chose to stand down. A decision to quench the rebellion might have provided the American troops who were protecting the rebels cause to use their guns. Placed in this precarious situation, the Queen yielded to the superior armed power of the United States. She wrote a letter of protest that said, quote, "Now, to avoid any collision of armed forces and perhaps the loss of life, I do, under this protest and impelled by said forces, yield my authority until such time as the government of the United States shall, upon the facts being presented to it, undo the action of its representative and reinstate me in the authority which I claim as the constitutional sovereign of the Hawaiian Islands." As can be imagined, the overthrow of their country's government caused great concern and anger amongst the kingdom's citizenry. Civic engagement heightened dramatically. Days after the overthrow, the Hawaiian newspapers reported the details of a trip by members of the Committee of Safety to secure annexation to the United States. An editor of the newspaper Holomua stated in November of 1893, quote, "The action of President Harrison through his representative, Minister Stevens, was revolutionary and was an act of war against a weaker nation towards which it had been on the most friendly terms for 50 years, and one which it had recognized and acknowledged as an independent nation." In local newspapers, citizens of the kingdom held out hope that the United States and President Grover Cleveland would make amends for the conduct of their foreign minister, just as the British made amends for their actions of Captain George Paulette 50 years earlier. Newspapers reported the statements and analyses made by constitutional lawyers and congressmen during the debates of annexation. The Hawaiian newspapers reprinted articles published across the country on the issue of annexation. They printed the appeals of the Hawaiian Patriotic League to the American government, which stated, quote, "We cry to you for justice, and for such help as the honor and fair name of American people command you to extend us." In December of 1893, after an in-depth investigation, President Grover Cleveland condemned the action of American Minister John L. Stevens, calling his conduct, quote, "an act of war, committed with the participation of a diplomatic representative of the United States and without authority of Congress." President Cleveland then stated that, quote, "a substantial wrong has thus been done, which due regard for our national character as well as the rights of the injured peoples requires that we should endeavor to repair." Cleveland, however, deferred action to Congress and offered to, quote, "cooperate in any legislative plan which may be devised for the solution of the problem before us, which is consistent with American honor, integrity, and morality." Congress reacted in 1894. Unable to push through annexation, the United States House of Representatives concluded that neither restoration of the Queen nor annexation to the United States should occur. And the U.S. Senate determined that the people in Hawaii had a right to establish and maintain their own form of government and domestic polity, that the United States ought in no wise to interfere therewith, and that any intervention in the political affairs of these islands by any other government will be regarded as an act unfriendly to the United States. With annexation out of reach, on July 4th, 1894, the provisional government declared itself the Republic of Hawaii, with Sanford Dole as its president. In January 1895, Robert Wilcox and Samuel Nolan, the former head of the Queen's Guard, led a final military effort to reclaim the Queen's government. A battle broke out on Diamond Head at the home of a royalist after tips of weapons being landed broke to the Republic. During this first battle, the royalists were successful in repelling the Republic's movements. However, 2 additional gun battles in Mo'iliili and Mānoa would prove unsuccessful for the royalists. The royalists who fought in the insurrection were arrested and jailed. Liliuokalani was arrested and charged with misprision of treason. The Queen was imprisoned in her own palace for 8 months. Following the unsuccessful January uprising, Francesco Jose Testa, editor of the Hawaiian language newspaper Kamaka'ainana, published a book of 104 mele of decidedly nationalist sentiment, known as the Buke Mele Lāhui. The mele, a compilation of poems and lyrics published in Hawaiian newspapers, repeatedly expressed belief or hope in the eventual restoration of the monarchy and kingdom. As Kihei de Silva writes, one extraordinary feature of the buke is the covert exchange of aloha between the imprisoned Queen Liliuokalani and her loyal subjects. As characterized by Dr. Noenoe Silva, the collection gives voice to a conversation between people who most needed to speak to each other at a time when they were most forbidden to converse. Hawaiians, she says, were surveilled. It was their good fortune and ours that these surveillors placed little importance on the mele that were being published in the newspapers of their day. Tonight, we present to you some of these songs of resistance as interpreted by some of the finest hula halau. The first mele presented this evening pays tribute to the first battle in the January 1895 uprising that took place on Daimanahila, what we call today Diamond Head. The composer D.K. Kaumiumi invokes Aloha Aina as the driving force behind the attempt to restore the Queen. Aloha Aina, literally translated as love of the land, is a deep sense of patriotism and connection with land and the sovereignty of the kingdom. Kaumiumi writes, "Patriotism remains in my heart and forever dwells. Long live Hawai'i." Under the direction of Kumuhula Snowbird Bento, Kapahula o Kaleilehua presents Ho'olulu Ke Aloha Aina.
No na ola kai ka ulu vehi kua nai ilu na o mo helaia ka ohi aku ilu na o mauna loi Aoha mai kaula nā ula ia. E ala kaulala he ulale, he mohei, he kānai nei na uia oe e laka. E laka e houluia.
Ai i kaluna o dai manahila. Aia.
Aia i kauna o dai manahila, ke aloha ai na e hoʻolu nei.
Aia.
Aia i kauna o dai manahila, ke aloha ai na e hoʻolu nei.
E kilohi.
E kilohi ho au o kaimuki, ka uahi noe ka pura i whera.
E kilohi.
E kilohi ho au o kaimuki, ka uahi noe ka pura i whera.
Ila mako.
I ke hoe, ka hana loko ino a ka hoʻokere.
Wiki.
Wiki koua hai ka ōlelo, ka holu o haʻainai. Wiki koua hai ka ōlelo, he aloha aina ko kukua.
Eia.
E ia e oe i tamu he, a he loli maka ano ka moana.
Eia.
E ia ka oe a he muhe, a he loli maka ano ka moana.
Ho'okahi.
Ho'okahi mea nui ka lahu, ke aloha aina e ho'olu nei.
Ho'okahi.
Ho'okahi mea nui ka lahu, ke aloha aina e ho'olu nei.
Aia i ka hale.
Olu hikino na ka opu se a o Hawai'i.
E ola.
E ola a Hawai'i a hamaruloa, a kau i ke au mala mai, haina ia mai ana ka puana, e aloha aina e ho'olu nei.
E ola.
E ola Hawai'i a hamaruloa, a kau i ke au mala mai, haina ia mai ana ka puana, e aloha aina e ho'olu nei.
He aloha aina. Ko'u wai.
Like many of the other compositions in the Buke Mele Lāhui, the composers have set their minds to giving life for the Queen. They express an unyielding desire to keep fighting for the restoration of the kingdom. Composer S.P.J. Kahananui, in his poem Napua Kaulana a o Hawai'i, writes, "I seal my decision in my mind, forever strong to my love of the land, love to the monarch, and the crowned flag of Hawai'i." In the Mele Huakau i Ka'umauma, Joseph, Heleluhe, and D.K. Koa call for the return of the crown to Lili'uokalani and note that while they may have been bested in 1895, patriotism will always remain in their hearts. Composer Heleluhe, who with the Queen and dozens of other men were imprisoned, would continue the political fight by petitioning the American government for justice. Under the direction of Nā Kumuhula Keano Kaupu and Lono Padilla, the keiki of Halau Hi'iaka i Nā Makalehua present Nā Pua Kaulana a o Hawai'i and Huakau i Ka'umauma.
Nā ola kaigana hele ala ia e ki omu e kaua kōko. kou noi.
Ai, ua kauri kau mauma. E aloha. Aia.
Our next halau, Halau Nā Mele Lāhui Nahulu, under the direction of Kumu Hula Sunny Ching and Lopaka Igarta de Vera, close our hula performances with Ke Kumu Ola and Kupa'a Oiai'o Me Ka Lāhui. Ke Kumu Ola, in contrast to earlier poetry about places with very specific associations, is one of the first that celebrates Hawai'i as a nation, as a whole, with generalized attributes across all the islands. The second mele, Kupa'a Oiai'o Me Ka Lāhui, glorifies the queen in her authority and proudly calls for her restoration to the throne. The mele is a call to action to support Lili'uo Kalani. Now, 25 years ago, this halau performed in this building at the 100th observance of the Overthrow. Halau Nā Mele Lāhui Nahulu.
Hawai'i,
We next honor two songs written by Liliuokalani. The first, Nani Nā Pua Ko'olau, was written in 1860 and was one of her first published works. The young Lydia Kamakaeha Paki writes a poetic love song for my flower, my bird, my chief, and chosen one. The Queen's second composition performed tonight is Kawai Apolani. Following the uprising in 1895, Queen Liliuokalani was arrested, tried, and convicted of misprision of treason. The Republic placed her under house arrest in her own palace. Following her release, and while visiting one of her homes in Waikiki, Liliu composed Kawai Apolani, a song that expressed her deep knowledge that she is truly the leader of her Hawaiian people, as she likens herself to the kalo, and purest of vai, water, captured in the kalo leaf. Under the direction of Nola Nahulu, the Hawaii Youth Opera Chorus and the University of Hawaii at Mānoa Hawaiian Chorus presents Nani Nā Pua Ko'olau and Kawai Apolani.
Oh
Our final performers for the evening have a unique lineage to the kingdom, the events of the Overthrow and to the songs of protest. Following the Overthrow, Royal Hawaiian Band members protested and refused to sign a loyalty oath to the provisional government. Members begged composer Ellen Wright Prendergast to put their feelings to mele, and she did with Mele Aloha Aina, the patriot song, commonly referred to today as Kaulana Nā Pua. As the first song that appears in the Buke Mele Lāhui, it compares the band members' desire to eat stones before they concede to the provisional government. Tonight, 125 years after the Overthrow, members of the Royal Hawaiian Band Glee Club will play for us a set of 3 songs. The first, Eli Li'ue, was originally a chant written by Antone Ka'o'o that was set to music by John Kaulia. The mele expresses the composer's loyalty and aloha for Queen Liliuokalani. The second mele, Na'ali'i, which was written by Samuel Kuahivi, is a plea to honor the departed chiefs, particularly Kamehameha.
Aloha nā hui o nā li'i mai nā kūpuna mai. E pahaina, kulelo heulana, ua hele au moi ia. Ua wale aina, homa nā oana, no nā li'i kaulana. Ua pā, ua hala lako, ako e no nā pua. Ua pā, ua hala lako, ako e no nā pua.
Ele ka leha he o Hawaii, ka hei o i o nā aliha. E paka mana ho me na lau ka i pua mau ke o da aina i ka pōpulu. He li o ka li hua kaulana, ka nā pōre o no i na mā ke pika. He lehi ka leha he o Hawaii, na hula mamori ke ole. He lehi ka leha he o Hawaii, na hula mamori ke ole. Mahalo.
Finally, the Royal Hawaiian Band Glee Club will play Ku'upua I Pauakalani, a song written by Lili'ua Kalani during her imprisonment. The song speaks of the fragrant flowers she missed at her Waikiki estate. Please join me in again welcoming back the Royal Hawaiian Glee Club.
Oh,
Mahalo for joining us this evening. We'd like to again thank our partners, the Hawaii State Bar Association Civic Education Committee, the King Kamehameha V Judiciary History Center, Oiwi TV, and the Dolores Furtado Martin Foundation for making this event possible. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the awesome members of the History Center, Terry Skillman for her hard work in planning all of this, Ahukini Fuertes, and Matt Matisse definitely deserve our round of applause. Following this closing, please join us downstairs for some refreshments and take the opportunity to visit the History Center's exhibits, including a recently created poster on the international treaties of the Kingdom of Hawaii. To close, please rise as we all together sing Hawai'i Pono'i. Mahalo.